The Panamanian government and one of the two main social forces leading the Panamanian protests reached a pre-agreement at the table established in Santiago de Veraguas. The southwest of Europe endured a 6 days of a summer heatwave that has triggered devastating fires as part of the continent braced for new temperature records. Iran condemned Joe Biden's unfounded accusations against the country during his visit to the West Asian region. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Panamanian government and one of the two main social forces leading the Panamanian protests, the National Alliance for the Rights of the Peoples, have reached a pre-agreement at the table installed in the Santiago de Veraguas. The agreement relates to the freezing of the price of fuel at $3.32 per gallon. This agreement marks the first progress made in the dialogue, which is now focused in the following 2 points: the food basket and the price of medicines. However, Luis Sanchez, secretary of the Veraguense Teachers Association, said that although the price freeze was agreed upon, the negotiating organizations have not signed anything until a consensus is reached on the other pending issues. Meanwhile, this Sunday, the demonstrations are expected to continue in several areas of the country, extending until Monday. In the last days of his administration, the government of President of Colombia, Iván Duque, plans to deliver 3.9 billion pesos contract to a questioned Spanish corporation for the construction of a waterway in the Canal del Dique. The Colombian government informed that the 15-year concession will be granted to the construction company TeleSUR. This company has a wide participation in several infrastructure projects in the country, as well as 2 lawsuits for the construction of the East Guara Bridge in Santander and the construction of the Pumarejo Bridge as well. The delivery of the concession is made despite of calls to extend the deadline for the presentation of proposals and to guarantee a greater participation. The concession will be delivered to the company on August 4th before President-elect Gustavo Petro takes office. In Colombia, an attack against a road police post in the department of Antioquia has left at least 2 dead and 2 wounded. According to the authorities, the events occurred on the Medellin-Uruba highway in the municipal jurisdiction of the Imatango sector when about 9:30 a.m. local time unknown men attacked a highway police checkpoint with explosives in Cañas Gordas, western Antioquia. A police inquiry is underway to determine whether this attack have been carried out by members of the Gulf clan. In an effort to suppress violence, the mayor's office of Chigorodo has issued a restriction order for motorcycles forbidding their circulation from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. to be enforced until next Wednesday, July 20th. In Brazil, remembrance ceremonies were held for indigenous activist Bruno Pereira and of English journalist Dom Phillips, who were murdered on June 5th while they were on an expedition in the region near the indigenous land Vale do Javari in western Amazon. One such ceremony was an interreligious one held at Sé Cathedral in the central part of Sao Paulo, attended by thousands of people, including Beatriz Matos, Pereira's widow, and Alessandra Sampaio, Phillips' widow. Also present were several indigenous leaders, politicians, and some celebrities. At all those ceremonies, people denounced the responsibility of Jair Bolsonaro's government in the invasion of indigenous territories. The ceremony also paid tribute to the life and work of Dom Claudio Humes, Archbishop Emeritus of Sao Paulo, who died on July 4th and who championed the rights of the indigenous peoples. In Haiti, food shortages and high prices are causing long lines at gas stations and raising tensions among citizens. The economic crisis and the shortage of gasoline are causing longer and longer lines in front of gas stations in Port-au-Prince. The fuel crisis has persisted for several months, forcing the closure of some gas stations in the capital at a time when the price of gasoline in the black market is 5 times the official price, with a consequent increase in the cost of transportation and of the basic basket. This situation worsened over the last week as clashes between gangs for the control of the Martisan neighborhood caused the blockade of the Vado terminal, which stores 70% of the country's fuel. And we'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. under a sixth day of a summer heat wave that has triggered devastating forest fires as parts of the continent brace for new temperature records early next week. Over this past week, wildfires in France, Portugal, Spain, and Greece battled forest blazes that ravaged thousands of hectares of land, with some firefighters falling in the line of duty. One of the hardest hit areas is the southeast of France, with over 10,000 hectares of forest destroyed and more than 12,000 people in total, residents and tourists combined, have been relocated in 5 emergency shelters. It is the second heat wave engulfing parts of southwestern Europe in weeks, as scientists blame climate change and predict more frequent and intense episodes of extreme weather. In France, forest fires destroyed 10,000 hectares of forest in the southwestern department of Gironde, while 38 other departments remain on alert due to the persistent heat wave. The agency Météo France warned that temperatures could reach 40 degrees Celsius on Monday. Is expected to be the hottest day ever recorded on French soil. According to forecasts, could be left behind the record of 29.4 degrees Celsius left on August 5, 2003 and July 25, 2019, so very few departments would report less than 30 degrees. High temperatures triggered a series of forest fires. Over 1,000 firefighters and volunteers remain on Sunday for the 6th consecutive day in the work to extinguish the flames. These amid difficulties before the arrival of the peak of the heat wave that hits the country, with the west and south as territories most affected by high temperatures. Wildfires continued to spread across Spain on Saturday as firefighters worked around the clock to try to bring them under control. Efforts to tackle the fires come after government officials on Friday said that the firefighters were tackling 17 fires across Spain. Footage released by the Forest Fires Reinforcement Brigade showed columns of smoke rising from burning areas in west-central Spain. On Friday, a heat wave hit in Spain and Portugal has created conditions for flames to spread more quickly and hamper efforts to control them. Authorities are linking these more frequent, more intense, and more prolonged heat waves to climate change. In Italy, several unions called an airstrike for this Sunday, July 17th, over labor demands. The strike will cause the cancellation of some 600 flights. Union spokesman said the strike will take place between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. local time. The strike will also be joined by the ground staff of the so-called National Entity for Flight Assistance, as well as air traffic controllers and workers of at least 4 airlines, which will affect the flights of 100,000 passengers. In the case of the flight controllers' protest, the Minister of Tourism, Massimo Garavaglia, announced a possible precautionary measure provided for in Law 146 of 1990, which prevents strike action in the event of founded danger of serious and imminent damage to constitutionally protected rights. Garavaglia declared that strike by air traffic control operators means blocking the country and harms the rights of travelers and companies. Repsol unions in Spain called a 3-day strike to denounce the loss of purchasing power of their workers' salaries in the middle of the country's inflation. Around 16,000 workers of the Repsol Group were called by the Trade Union Confederation of Workers' Commission, the General Workers' Union, the Workers' Union, and the Labor Union to carry out mobilizations in 1,000 of the company's centers due to poor salary conditions. At the same time, local sources informed that the first day of the strike has obtained a 95% follow-up. For his part, the Communications Secretary of the Workers' Union, Jordi Margalef, declared that Repsol employees have frozen earnings since 2020, which contrasts with the company's great economic results. In the United Kingdom, the Conservative candidates aspiring to succeed Prime Minister Boris Johnson participated on Friday in the first televised debate. Penny Mordaunt, a Union government minister and Royal Navy reservist who is little known to the general public, has emerged as the favorite to become the next Prime Minister. Meanwhile, former Treasury Chief Rishi Sunak has the strongest support among Conservative lawmakers in the vote so far. Conservative lawmakers will decant candidates to leave only 2, who will face a runoff election among all party members. The winner will be announced on September 5th and will automatically become Prime Minister.
Huge range of achievements.
Is Boris Johnson an honest man?
World Health Organization warned of increase in death and COVID-19 infections worldwide. The increase in COVID-19 infections shows that the pandemic is not over, warned the World Health Organization, which maintains it as one of the greatest public health emergencies at the international level. The number of cases reported to the United Nations agency increased by 30% in the last 2 weeks due to the subvariants of Omicron B.4 and BA.5 and the lifting of health measures. In view of this situation and the increased pressure on health systems, WHO called on governments to act with measures that have already proved effective. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the South. Iran condemned Joe Biden's unfounded accusations against the country during his visit to the West Asian region and announced that once again U.S. appeals to the Islamophobia policy in order to create tensions and crisis in the region. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani rejected the allegations raised by Biden that Tehran is seeking to acquire a nuclear weapon. The diplomat pointed out that these claims as false, while considering them to be in line with Washington's seditious policy. Mentioning episodes in the history of the U.S., such as being the first country to use the nuclear weapon and promoting militarism in the region, Kanani warned that Washington, once again by resorting to the failed policy of Iranophobia, is trying to create tension and crisis in the region. In Sri Lanka, a crowd held a vigil in honor of the victims of government repression against the protests. Dozens of people lit candles and torches in the middle of a peaceful camp in the country's capital, Colombo, to express their solidarity with the victims of state repression. The vigil takes place after Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as interim president following the Rajapaksa's resignation after fleeing the country. For more than 3 months, hundreds of protesters camped in tents in front of the presidential office in protest sparked by a severe economic crisis resulting in shortages of food, medicines, and fuel.
Acknowledge and remember
the memorial day of our whoever lost, whoever injuries, whoever died for this peaceful struggle in Sri Lanka.
We as a nation respect them. We appreciate their all contributions. We want to say that without their contribution, we can't reach this victory. Really, we were failed without their contribution. So as a nation, as a grateful people, we want to tribute them. We want to say thank you so much for all the commitment, for that sacrifice, and all the dedication in the name of Mother Sri Lanka.
Chinese President Xi Jinping, following a recent tour, has called for more efforts to transform the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in northwest China into the country's gateway to the west and a core area of the Silk Road economic belt. At present, the area is China's connecting point to Central Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, owing to its strategic location as the country's westernmost frontier. It plays a vital role in the China proposed Belt and Road Initiative, which refers to a framework of trade and infrastructure networks connecting Asia to Europe and Africa, along and beyond the Asian Silk Road routes. President Xi said the area is a multicultural hub that must be included in the country's overall plan of westward development. Moscow City Mayor's office reported that since the military operation in Ukraine began, 26,000 people and 71 organizations joined forces to send 832.9 tons of humanitarian aid to the Donbas region. The chairman of the City Public Relations and Youth Policy Committee, Ekaterina Dragunova, said that more than 6,500 people joined the volunteer corps of the relief program. She also informed that these volunteers have been collecting essential items donated for the residents of the Donbass forced to leave their homes. Dragunova said the packages are received at 12 different collection points. Then they are delivered to the more than 500 temporary accommodation centers set up by Russian authorities for refugees. According to the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, Russia is trying to create its own oil price benchmarking system to mitigate the effects of sanctions and guarantee revenues from crude oil sales. The Russian system is being presented as an alternative to the three primary global benchmarks that currently serve as reference prices for buyers and sellers of crude oil. Russia's key ministries, oil producers, and the central bank are planning to launch oil trading on a national platform in October. Russia will work to draw foreign partners to buy oil so as to achieve enough trading volumes between March and July of 2023 to establish a homegrown pricing benchmark. TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and unfaithfulness to our audience. And we have come to the end of this news brief, where you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.